Welcome, dirty peasants, to episode 15 of the Wartwood Gazette podcast. This week we'll be covering Amphibia Season 1, Episode 7, Dating Season and Anne vs. Wild. I'm your host, Thumbaticon, and joining me today we have Lemur,
Hello, once again. Hello.
Nick,
What's up?
and Ben.
Hi.
All right, thanks guys for coming on today. And was there any Amphibia news this week? Can't think of any from the top of my
Nope,
head.
not so far. Well,
Yeah,
the closest thing we have is the Comic Con, which is next week.
Woo! Yeah, we'll
let's get
definitely
hyped for
try
that.
to. Yeah, we'll cover that. I think the day it air, like the panel happens. I think we can have another chat.
Mm. Yeah, but there are probably some people who will be asleep to not recover with that. So yeah.
Like we can do it this time, hopefully, to get some of the Philly gang.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. Yeah,
True.
get everyone in together for that.
We desperately need some new guests.
Yeah, we really need them on. Yeah, just to diversify the podcast. Because it's
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go right into dating season. So this episode was written by Adam Colas, storyboarded by Aaron Austin and Hannah Ayobi, and directed by Bert Yoon. So the episode starts off with Sprig and Anne in the forest, and then Anne's not a fan of the forest, and Sprig's trying to convince her, but then all of a sudden they're ambushed by Sprig's friend Ivy. So then they have a chat. Sprig introduces Ivy to Anne, and then they both head back home, and then Anne being the best friend that she is being annoying about it to Sprig. Insisting it was flirting, she tells Hop Hop, and then Hop Hop starts freaking out because the Sendu family has they had some good farmland or seeds. So he basically Anne pretty much convinces Sprig to set up a date with the possibility that Ivy could be his soulmate. And then during this conversation, Hop Hop has already sent an invite via mosquito. So then they decide to set up a date during the I think it was called the Firefly Festival. Yeah, the Firefly
Yeah.
Festival, which was conveniently happening that night. So then, and also you have Polly, who just doesn't care about Sprig's love life. So then we fast forward to the Firefly Festival. So then Sprig is in this really weird traditional gown, and then Hop Hop and Anne are basically preparing to ship him off to get married. And then we meet Ivy, who's also being pressured by Felicia, her mom. So then they start dancing. That I forgot the name of that judging Newt, but he read some kind of note from Hop Up saying don't screw it up. But they're in the middle of their weird kind of dance. And then Ivy and Sprig are both really awkward about it because they just saw each other as friends. Then they decide to ditch the festival and go into the woods. So Anne thinks they're connecting, but apparently the ritual will be ruined if they don't finish the dance. So then Hop Hop, Felicia, and Anne run off after them and drag Polly with them. So I guess the rest of the planners encounter. Sorry, before the Love Doves show up, Ivy and Sprig find this really nice lake. We get a good shot of them observing the fireflies, and then meanwhile, planters, while they're looking for Sprig and Ivy, they encounter Love Doves, which even though they're very very affectionate creatures for each other, they are murderous animals to anything else around them. So they grab the planters and Felicia and take them back to the nest to eat them. But then Sprig and Ivy notice what's going on. They notice their families getting getting pulled away. So they decide to chase them down. While the planners and Felicia are stuck, they start arguing. But then Polly pretty much tells them all off and exposes them, and like informs them of the error of their ways. So eventually, Sprig and Ivy show up. They free the planners, and then Sprig does an ambush on the birds, and eventually they fight the love doves off. So then we get the moral where everyone apologizes, and then just as Ivy's leaving, Sprig realizes he falls in love. He's fallen in love with Ivy, and that's the end of dating season. So yeah, I like this was a cute episode with we get to see Ivy for the first time, which even though the first episode Sprig mentioned he didn't have a lot of friends, but he had Ivy though, but just a minor nitpick, I guess. But yeah, like the humor was fun, like hilarious and on point as always with all this dating talk. But I guess Ben, what were your thoughts on the episode?
Um, I liked it a lot. It was a good episode. Um, I liked how Polly was kind of like just the main voice of reason throughout the entire ordeal. Like whenever Anne was just talking about like what their couple name would be, Polly was just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And like towards the end, like she was the one who basically revealed everything to Anne, Hop Pop, and Ivy's mom. Um,
Yeah, I liked how even though Polly was like the voice of reason, she still had her like hilarious moments where she like rips or eats Anne's magazine.
yeah, and I I do like how at the end, even though throughout this entire episode, Sprig's like, we're just friends. At the end, he's just like, you know what? I love her actually. At the end with Anne, Anne's like, you just fell in love with her, didn't you? And he's just like, yeah, I just did.
Yeah, I always found it funny how like the whole episode builds up this point that these two are just friends and that like everyone should accept that, and then they just like betray that whole idea right at the end. Like I like this shit, but I've always just found that weird about the episode.
Yeah, because it felt like they were like trying to like prove a point, but then it's like at the very end, this Sprig was like, nah.
Like, nah, I actually do like her.
So Nick, what were your thoughts on the episode?
Well, honestly, I thought it was like a really nice episode on childhood friendships between a boy and a girl, mixed in with like some of the show's funniest moments. I have to say, like any interaction that Polly had with like Felicia's hop hop or Anne's nonsense was pretty much like my favorite parts of the episode. Like I don't know, it was just I feel like she had the perfect reactions to any dumb thing they might have said. Like when Anne thought she was like when Anne thought when Anne thought for once in an episode she didn't do anything wrong, and then Polly just like Polly basically just throws that back in her face, telling her how dumb she was of her teenage magazines. Like that was just funny. That was just so funny to me.
Yeah, and also like Papa was hilarious where he's just in it for for like the how to
He's
describe
just
it,
in it for
the
the
downy,
special
the
seeds.
dowry. Yeah, like I'm trying to look up that line where Oh, and also when Ivy and Hop Hop shake hands, like Ivy puts on like a little like cloth because he thinks he's like dirty.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, because yeah. Oh, that just makes me think though, because but actually, no, I'll get into that later. I'll just get into that later then.
Oh, another one of those Hop Hop.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
yeah, just another hop hop thing. Because I just noticed something. Yeah, it's sort of like a reoccurring theme of the show with like hop hop and spray. But let's get into that later.
Lemur, what were your thoughts on the episode?
Okay, so to start off, I just want to say how much of a mood Polly is in this episode. Like, good grief, this girl is my freaking spirit animal in this goddamn episode.
Yeah, she is.
Like, damn. Like, if I was in that situation, I would literally everything that she did would probably be the exact reaction I would give. Like, I am so like her reactions in this episode is just perfect because man, like rewatching this episode again is kind of painful with all of the stupid, the stupid things that like Anne, Felicia, and Hop Pop did. Oh man, Anne as a shipper is like one of my, well, personally one of my pet peeves towards Anne, but it's like one of my, it's one of like. Well, it's like a little bit of it. It's a personal pet peeve of mine. It's not an actual nuisance. Like, I forgot it. I keep forgetting that Anne is like an actual teenage girl most of the time. Like, yeah, I also keep forgetting how much of a shill Hop Hop is for the most part. Like we keep we keep saying that about him in season one, but like damn, he's ready to act, he's willing to do anything just for money in the season, huh?
Yeah, just to escape the financial burden. Like he's practically willing to do anything, and he never quits that. Like,
yeah, well, to be fair, he did have a good reason that was explored in like in a future episode, but like if you were watching it earlier, he was saying like
yeah.
if you were
Like,
watching this in the point of time, but like damn, without hindsight, like wow, Hop Up is a greedy bastard.
I mean,
Yeah,
he's not.
oh,
I feel like Hop Up isn't a greedy bastard, but like if he didn't have a moral compass, he would have been a really good greedy bastard.
Yeah, that's what we said. And, like he had the motivation, which was explained on like a later episode, but like
yeah,
you
but
can't help but feel a little too annoyed when he does these kinds of things.
yeah, because guys, I mean, at this point, you just feel bad. Sprig has been taken advantage by both Hop Up and Anne at this point. Like Anne already had him wed to go get some dough. Now Hop Up's like having him like taken away just so he can get some like I don't even like what even was it again? Just like
secret proprietary crops.
For proprietary crops, yeah.
It's just proprietary.
Yeah.
That's a total
also,
Hop Hop move.
Yeah, and also Maddie actually like Sprig brings up his engagement to Maddie.
Yeah, we
and like
forgot
they show
to
the ring,
that.
like that weird skull ring, and then Hoppa's just like, forget her.
Forget her, man. She doesn't have money. Like, yeah. Come on, dude. Well, at least like they brought up Maddie because like in another show they would probably would have forgotten that plot point. But Amphibia does a good job of keeping you up with past moments that happened before and bringing them up again because of its strong sense of continuity.
I mean, I want to say that, but like even I think season one's continuity was a little bit
Weird,
rocky.
yeah, because
because
the whole Sprig does not have a friend before thing, and then Ivy shows up.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit iffy, but like, yeah, for the most part, it's really good.
Yeah, I'd say you could also like sort of stretch that over to like how Polly interacts with the characters of the show. Because I just feel like she sort of plays like the straight man for like a lot of the beginning episodes, but then like later on, she becomes this like destructive, chaotic ball. Like, is that the one? Like, how did she get to that point?
I mean, she still is. I think it's just that like when the rest of the characters are this like out of control, Polly's the one who has to.
Oh, Polly has to play the straight man because she is a baby.
For social interactions, Polly seems pretty level-headed, But like, if it's just causing mayhem, then yeah, Polly's like, she's the one. She's like the one in the
True,
front row.
Just to let loose.
true. Yeah, and like it's kind of crazy how the baby is like the most has the most mature outlook out of the situation. Then again, she is a baby. She doesn't really know anything about romance and stuff. Even though personally she is the most she has the most sensible outlook out of any of them.
Yeah, no. She every word that came out of her mouth was just like a total mood. Like I just especially love the part,
I know.
like just the part where she just when everyone's making up, she says, "Guys, I always say leave the emotional makeup for later. We need to get the safety." Like I just that's a thing I always want to scream at the TV when there's like danger going on and everyone's too busy hugging each other. Like every single line from her was just something I've thought in the past before. It was just perfect.
She's a freaking mood, bro. Like, oh man, like I forgot how great Polly is sometimes, but this is one of the episodes that remind me that maybe Polly is actually a better character than I thought. Yeah, I have to give her credits to her character in this episode. She is great. And even though it's kind of ironic that she does fall in a shipping mood in a later episode, I'll give it a pass. She will always have this episode to win me over.
Oh yeah, I had to think about that for a second. It's the Civil War, right? Yeah. I didn't think
that's the 2B episode.
that
Oh,
does happen. Yeah, she does do that.
Yeah, she. Well, to be fair, it's more of a a fangirl obsession with the whole team thing.
Yeah.
But like the Twilight thing, more of a shipping thing. But whatever.
Also to bring it up, I guess, like since we're bringing up in that sense, like with the shipping war movie thing, to Polly, like those are fictional characters, while with Sprig and Ivy, it's like real people.
Yeah, like
So and like shipping real people together compared to fictional characters is kind of different, because like with real people, we know they have feelings, and they like if they find out that they're being shipped together, they can like say what they feel about it. But like with fictional characters, well, they're fictional, they can't really do anything about it. So
They can't tell you you're being creepy.
yeah, so
Polly just that's kind of sad, really.
That's what separates Polly from everyone else. She just has standards when it comes to shipping. Like,
I mean, I always said all shipping is bad anyway, but whatever. Moving on.
Oh, the newt says like Hop Pop's message for Sprig is, Sprig, don't mess this up for us. It's like the delivery where like the guy's just like reading this out loud, like everyone can hear.
Also, isn't that the same guy that who is also the critic from
It's the critic.
Yeah, it's the same guy too. Another bit of foreshadowing that we missed.
And then I wouldn't call it foreshadowing. It's just in this world.
Well, an indication of another episode, I guess.
Yeah, and I also noticed that like he also helps, like not even just like the critic stuff. He also just helps with like, I guess,
with
the town business, like
thing.
any official, I guess, political stuff going on in Wartwood. He's always there helping. I feel like it's subtle there, but like, I mean, he's a newt, right? So like, it just
he is a newt.
Yeah, it just makes sense for why he'd be connected to that. Like, why instead of having like a toad assistant to help Toadstool, it's a newt. Like, instead of having like a frog assistant to help a Toadstool, it's like a newt actually. Like, it's sort of that social divide that Amphibia brings in.
Is this actually like the first time that we see a sign of that here?
It's the first time we see a newt, I think.
Yeah, I think he's our first newt.
Yeah, I think this is our first. I think this is the first time we've seen a newt in this show. Because
like we saw Grime as early back in like episode 2, so we had like some idea.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is the first newt. I think this is the first newt that we've seen in this show. Ah, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I just wonder, when does Amphibia sort of point out that there's like I guess like a caste system. Like I don't know, I
It-
can't remember, but it just
wasn't it like in one of the
How
wasn't it
popular I
in
think
Prison
is
Break?
when
Oh yeah, how popular was when it was like shown in the spotlight? But I think I
yeah, I
wasn't it
think Prison
Prison
Break
Break?
or even
Yeah.
toe tax maybe.
yeah,
Oh,
maybe
true.
around there.
Yeah, maybe there. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel
Because
like it just like it's just really subtle. Like a town full of frogs. A show like advertised as a world of frogs, and then the people in charge of like it's like the political stuff going on, the business stuff are happen to be a newt and a toad. Like it's not specifically pointed out to you, but like I feel like there's sort of that subtlety there.
Mm. I also like hold on. Yeah, I think when we get to the point where we get to know more of the townies in this season, that's also where like the political aspect of Amphibia kicks in more.
Yeah, I think I think that's true because I feel like things really start kicking off when we get to like Lily Pad Thai or something, right? And
Yeah,
then
when
after
we
like I
get
think
to
right after
know when we actually get to know the other townies more personally, starting with who is the
I think
I forgot the name
Stumpy.
of the chef. Yeah,
Stumpy.
Stumpy.
Because like no,
Yes,
because like
yes.
literally right after that we have like toe tax and prison break. So I think you're really onto something there, Liam. Because like after that we start getting more individual like individualized episodes of like Anne and some random like member of Wartwood.
Mm. Also, I think we can also consider dating season as like yeah one of the first county episodes that we got. I think we could consider that because
Like,
for
how would we consider a townie episode? Like, is it just
like
like
I guess
wha-
if it's
one
like if it's like a character that I feel like if it's one of the reoccurring if it's an episode about one of the reoccurring Warwood episodes, I feel like we can chalk it up to be a townie episode because because like Ivy and Felicia, like they're two recognizable characters like later on in the season. I mean, same with Albus Duckweed. Like these are characters you just like recognize later on. So I feel like we can because then again, I mean,
then Breakout Star had like
Breakout
Toadstool.
Star is like
yeah,
okay, yeah. I guess. Well, it's more like it's more of a planter episode. Well, more of a focus. Or I think personally, Breakout Star is more of an episode, more of a townie episode, because
We're gonna rob Sprig of his shipping episode and call it a
oh
townie
my.
episode.
I mean, to be fair,
it felt
this is
like
like one of the
such an anti-shipping episode. Oh, for me, it's just,
true.
like I feel like I just remember the first time I saw this, I was actually like, listen, my feelings are Spivey. They're just sort of like I'm like, yeah, it's nice. I'm not the biggest fan of, it, but like, so I just remember like my first time seeing the episode, I was like, I was just in full support of the fact that they just both just want to be friends. Because like you'd see this happen all the time, like a boy and a
Yeah.
girl, like who are friends, like both the fan base and the show are going to push
Or
them to be in a
or
romantic relationship. Like
or a boy or a boy, or a girl or a girl, or a boy or a girl and a girl and a boy and a boy and a boy and a girl and a girl. It's like it's endless. There's no end to it.
and yeah, I generally just felt like I don't know. I felt like the show betrayed itself at the end, but I was still admit it. We still got a nice. I feel like even then we still got like a
Come on,
nice.
look at that firefly scene and tell me it betrayed itself. I know.
To be fair,
I was on the same boat as you, Nick, and then like seeing them like bonding by like the lake, it's like my
Yeah,
cold
that-
heart.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is there. You're right. Yeah, that did warm my heart a little bit.
I
That
will.
it is there. But I think one thing I can admit that I like about the ship is the fact that it's not. There's no will they, won't they. There's no confirming it right at the end of the series or like the final episode. No, instead, here it is. We're gonna develop this nicely and just enjoy it. Like I feel like that's still sort of like a new thing that like modern television is doing because I feel like back then it was just this whole. They get together, then they break up 2 episodes later. They get together. It's just that whole nonsense. But Spivey just like kicks that to the curb and just does what it needs to do.
Well, okay. Well, they did. Well, since like Well, since Spivey is like a major part of this episode, I guess I have to talk about it. I guess. Well, okay.
You don't have
Personally,
to, but
I mean, no. I have to, because it is a part of the episode and it needs to be talked. Okay, yeah, I kind of agree with the idea that it's kind of weird to have Sprig like fall in love with Ivy even like after this episode like emphasize the fact that they are just friends, but like I don't know, like Spivey for for some reason that I can't put my finger on, Spivey kind of works for some reason. And I think it's because like what Nick said, like it's not something that the show is like it's not a focal point. Like Spivey is not a focal point of the show. No, isn't even like one of the biggest storylines of the show in general. It's just this little thing it's just this thing that a neat little thing that like it's cool or like cute. And then develop it like and then they develop it in the background, nice, like slow and steady and nicely until it became canon. And I appreciate that because most of the time romance is used as a crutch by less talented writers to make their stories a lot more interesting, e.g. Owl House. So
whoa, Lemur, you broke the sacred rule. Oh wait, I just realized Lemur's accepted to this
Oh
rule.
god.
Never mind.
Oh god.
I don't care. I don't care. But like, okay, but like, yeah, with Sprite it's like just that's cute, and then they moved on with like they moved on because they don't really talk about it much, and then but they developed it very well, like in the background, and when it when it became canon with them, in the penultimate episode, it was actually kind of nice because it's not a big part of the story. It's not even a huge part of Sprig's character, but like it's a nice it's a nice it's a nice piece that makes Sprig's character a lot more likable, I assume. Because
Yeah,
and like what?
yeah,
Are you gonna say,
I
Nick?
know. I agree with you there because I feel like it doesn't take away his character. Like it does add. Like I feel like it does add on to him in some way. Like it doesn't. Because I feel like Sprig's character is just really about. I feel like the focus on his character is just really about his friendship with Anne. Like having Spivey there. I mean, sorry, having Ivy. Sorry about that. Having Ivy there. It doesn't take away anything from what the show's. What the show does within the future. So I really do agree. I really do agree with you there.
Yeah, and like, and Ivy herself is not just a romantic interest character. Like that's just for her character. She's actually a very fun character to follow around, and like and even with the little amount of screen time that we got from her, I think she developed a solid enough character to like follow to have an episode on her own, which she did eventually in season 2, and that to me is like a sign of a good character. Like, so yeah, I enjoy it's that Spivey works because the romance of it does not really matter. It's not heavily romanticized either. It's portrayed as these two friends who are you know have a deeper bond. Even though that kind of description can be, not used in a romanticized way, I do respect how wholesome it is and how low stakes it is. I expect it for being it knows what it tries to do, and I respect it. That's what I'm gonna say.
All right, thank you, Lemur. You summed it up pretty well. And I guess Nick, any final thoughts on dating season?
I have to say, I feel like I remember last week I was out here saying Sprig versus Hop Pop was like might be the funniest episode in season 1, but I feel like this is also on par. Like I feel like Sprig versus Hop Pop was like I feel like it was like more funny in an ironic sense. But I feel like here the comedic lines they had were top notch. Like they landed every single time. I just remember a personal favorite of mine was just when Sprig said he looked stupid, and he said Ivy's going to think he looks stupid. And all she had to say was just you guys
Yeah,
have
she's
something
like,
in
now
common.
both of you will have something to talk about or something.
Yeah, or something
Yeah.
in common. Now you both have something in common.
Like, so yeah, I think
Ow! And then
it's-
Anne proceeds to get hit by every single bottle like she deserves.
yeah. See, that's why I feel like I never, while they are being really dumb, I never like get annoyed with them because at this, like they do get their comeuppance, like they do get all their BS thrown back in their face. I mean, and just having a bunch of different lamps just slam her in the face, like all that's there. So I feel like it's just a pretty solid episode.
Yeah, at least they're self-aware that Hop Pop, Anne, and Felicia are being idiots and jerks. That's nice. Not a lot of shows do that.
I still liked all of Hop Pop's like comedic moments, like with the mosquito, like taking some of his blood as a tip. And then, like,
yeah, dude, I was like,
Yeah.
he was like,
And
don't take
he,
too much.
like,
I still have some chores after this.
Go ahead, Ben.
Nick said what I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
He was like, "Don't take too much." Yeah.
Don't take too
And
much.
also-
I have chores to do.
And also his face when the love doves show up and like Felicia, Anne, and Polly are like, oh wow, so cute. And then you see Hop, I'm just like, he's freaking out. Like,
Love birds, or is it love doves or love doves?
I think it was
Love doves.
love doves.
Yeah, love doves. I kind of want.
Oh yeah.
I kind of
they're
want
all-
them to appear.
They're
in-
all smiling, and
Yeah,
Hop Pop's just like, "Oh shit."
kind of want them to appear in a later episode too, like just to see them get killed or something.
Oh man, he's like,
we did get the two-headed love dove in
Yeah,
Watching
they
the-
were.
yeah,
Yeah.
David.
They're not. Yeah, but they're not real.
It's not.
I want them to get-
though.
Yeah, it's a little like it's a nice callback.
Yeah, and see, it's just one of those many things in season 2 that just makes watching season 1 just feel so worth it. Like, man, but we can get that. We can get to that, like, I guess later when we actually get to season 2.
Yeah. Ben, any final thoughts on this episode?
No, not really. Yeah, good episode. On par with like previous episodes, and in terms of like just being a great episode. I do like how Anne kind of just pulls all her information from her teen magazines that she brought from the human world that were just all in her backpack for some reason, and like she uses that to justify her actions instead of like what she thinks. And like all the magazines are like, it'll blossom into romance, doesn't matter what happened, like some other thing. And in the end they just like get destroyed or something. And yeah, it's just a good episode.
Oh yeah, and we have that moment with Anne, like where like Polly destroys a magazine, and then like Anne feels like the guilt has been lifted, like lifted off of her like a burden.
Wow, I
It's
feel
like the magazine
lighter
was in
for some reason.
control of her.
Yeah.
Like, could you call that for like? Could you call it like a mini arc for Anne? This might sound dumb, but could you call that like a mini arc for Anne? Because like girl time in this episode, it was Anne trying to force like the average teenage stereotypes, and like Polly turns around, just rips that all up in their face, and just ends it right there for her. Like, and that's just says she feels free, right? Like, I don't know. That just popped in my head right now.
Maybe.
Maybe it's just a coincidence, but maybe it's on purpose. Real.
It was just coincidence.
I don't think so.
Coincidence?
I'll just take anything. I'll just take anything I can get.
Do 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 do.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. I man. That magazine was so stupid too. Especially like, the first. Especially
there
the first.
something
Like,
like-
she said, like I don't even know what she said. 5 out of. She was like, I remember there was like this
No,
one
like
line that was so
two-thirds
out,
of
like.
2/3 of relationships started with friends started with just being friends or something like that. Like, what the fuck is that? Where did you pull that statistic?
I remember there was like this line that was like fading into the background. Everyone was arguing. So she said like 5 out of 10 people say that. 3 out of 10. She's like, she was like going off on that. Like, God. Oh.
It's kind of ironic how much Amphibia loves to bash like romance and shipping, and yet this show has like a lot of shippers and romanticized and like some concepts.
mean,
I
Like
mean,
Jesus
the
Christ.
shippers aren't. It's not bad.
what animated
Yeah.
show Lemur doesn't have shipping fandoms
Big City Greats.
attached to it?
Oh, there we go.
Big City Greats. All right, moving on. What do you say, Tom?
All right, I think we can move on now to
Yeah, less
the
controversial.
next segment. Unless there's anything else to add on.
Nah,
I,
not
I think
much.
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, this is just a fine. It's a good episode, regardless of the stupid. It's stupid, but it's stupid with a purpose. I guess that's what. Yeah, that's. I think that's a good explanation of this episode.
All right. So I think we're going to move on to. Oh, I'm just looking at the credits. So the animation was done by Sunman Image Pictures, which isn't
What?
like this. They only animated season 1 episodes, but they didn't stay on for
Yes,
season 2.
yes. I think because they are working on other projects, specifically maybe Infinity Train.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
It's like the first time I saw like their name,
SMIP credits. Okay, yeah.
because I'm used to seeing Rough Draft Korea or Seiram animation. But yeah, I guess we'll move on to Anne versus Wild. So Anne versus Wild is written by Geneva Mai, or yeah, I think Geneva Mai. Oh, I'm sorry for doing that. Storyboard by Drew Applegate and Cheyenne Curtis. Directed by Derek Kirk Kim. So, Anne, like the episode starts with Anne in her basement. She's going through her bag looking for lotion, and then she ends up like finding a bath bomb. So she goes to show the planners, and then she discovers that the planners are already packing and preparing to go on a camping trip. And they didn't tell Anne because they didn't plan on bringing her along because they knew she wouldn't enjoy it. But then Anne claims that she likes the outdoors, but obviously she doesn't want to be left out. So Hop Up and Polly are skeptical, but then like Sprig is like, "Oh, if she wants to come, she should come." And then the planners like, "Okay." Like the planners decide, "Oh, it can't hurt to bring Anne along." So they arrive at the camp. Uh, we get like a montage of Anne not really, I guess, enjoying her time there. So like after the montage, before and after the montage, like Sprig is applying that sap on her to help keep the bugs away, but that didn't really help with the pain. But Hop Up insists on like telling Anne so she can take Bessie and go home anytime. And then like there's this point where Hop Up says they'll be fine without her, and that really strikes a chord in Anne's, I guess, psyche. I don't know. But then she decides like to keep up the lie by saying that all this camping is too soft for her and she could use something more extreme. And then that's when we get the introduction of Soggy Joe, who just shows up out of the bushes and offers to take them somewhere a little bit more extreme. And the planners are down for it, so they all head out to this like really creepy part of the forest at sunset at dusk, I guess. And it's real, like you can see like empty buckets from presumably polywogs, some skeletons, some small snails getting eaten by spiders. So it's not like the previous campsite. And then they sit around the fire. Soggy Joe tells about the mudmen, and then eventually goes for a bathroom break. And then like Anne is like they're all terrified, and and it's like Anne gets freaked out just by Sprig talking to her, and then Soggy Joe comes back and then collapses to reveal an axe behind his back. So they're all freaking out, and then you see the mudmen like emerging from like just the swamp itself. And this was after they all grab some torches to try and fend them off, but eventually like the mudmen just like throw mud on all their lights. So then just when things look dire, Anne remembers she has her bath bomb because Soggy Joe mentioned that they don't like sunlight or being clean. Tosses the bath bomb. They all get cleaned out to reveal they're just a bunch of cannibal frogs. They all run off. And then Anne finally decides to come clean about like the reason why she wanted to come along. And then eventually like the planet they all hug. This is the first time they hug, which is a significant moment. And then Hop Hop tells her that next time they'll include Anne on what they're doing, whether she likes it or not. And Soggy Joe reveals he's still alive. And then they basically sum up the episode for him. And then they all just head back to get some pancakes. And I know I haven't talked about the last scene, the last like minute of the segment. I think we'll save that for later. First, I think we'll go through this batch, not batch, this first 90% of the episode. But I really liked what separates this episode from the rest of season one for me is that outside of Best Franz and Anner Beast, I think this would be a really really solid episode you could show to anyone who hasn't seen the show yet, and they would still get a really good idea of what the show's about, what the characters are, and what happens at the last minute of the show to reveal whatever. We'll talk about it then, but what else what else the reason I really like this episode is because a lot of the segments we've seen so far that are centered around Anne generally involve her trying to recreate some like a part of her home life from Earth, and she's trying to like recreate Amphibia, and it's not turning out the way she plans. But then I think by Anne versus Wild, I think this is the first time Anne makes an honest attempt to fit into this world for the wrong reason. But it's like at least she's actually like making the effort instead of being forced to adapt in some sort of life or death situation that she ended up causing, which still happens later. But the reason the characters get into like this their conflict isn't from Anne's selfishness, but rather her fear of missing out. And this is kind of this is a side of Anne we haven't really seen since maybe Best Franz when she started like when she talked about Sprig about doing questionable things to like stay within whatever friendship she had, which we know about Sasha and Marcy. So we have this situation where like Anne is going out of her comfort zone for the wrong reason, even though it's technically something she should be doing. And then meanwhile we have the planners who are like oblivious to all of this, but they still, outside of Polly like just joking about Anne being soft, they still try to accommodate her, and they're still like they never tease her or make fun of her when she's like suffering, which I liked. It's because like a lot of episode like a lot of I don't want to say simpler cartoons, just other cartoons would just like make Anne like this episode still makes Anne the butt of the joke, but at least it's to the audience and not to the characters themselves. So yeah, I really like this episode. And I guess that like Nick, what were your thoughts on this episode?
honest, I gotta really agree with you there when you mentioned that this is another episode that sort of gave off I think Anne's like core problem when it comes to relationships. Like I don't know, like my first initial watch, like I guess I didn't pay that close attention, but yeah, I think this just really shows that Anne, like, she just has this like overwhelming need to fit in with, like, I guess any group she meets that she thinks is cool. To like push herself to her limits or out of her comfort zone just to match up with them, no matter, like, I guess no matter like what bad things happen to her, because she just has that need to really just fit in with them. And I think like what sets that apart from her relationship with, like, I guess relationship with the Planters versus that of Sasha and Marcy is that, like, I guess for them, like, I don't know, because I feel like they don't have specific needs for her. They just, well, they do, but I feel like it's more like just love and respect from her in this way, right? Like, I feel like that's like a point I need to think about further on. But yeah, I really do agree with a lot of your points here.
And like, yeah, she feels like she wants to be needed by the planners. But then in this case, like, and guess I don't want to get too much into Sasha and Marcy, but like I guess maybe Sasha and Marcy had things for Anne to do. But then like here, like the planners just are like, the planners don't really need Anne. They just brought her along. I think that's a good thing. That, like, it's a good thing Anne ended up with someone like the planners who didn't really uh I don't want to say exploit because that's a very heavy word. Uh like they just took her in and just let her do what she wants, and occasionally Anne will help with the, like, I'm probably getting too off topic, but it's a good thing that that she ended up with the planners of everyone in Wartwood, or maybe even Amphibia. But I guess, Ben, what were your thoughts on this episode? Ben, wait, is my audio okay?
Yeah, your audio is fine. I think
Oh, okay.
Ben might be away from the mic right now or something.
All right. I think Lemur's away from the mic right now, so.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Lemur, what were your
I'm
thoughts on?
I was
I
just
guess
waiting
what were your
here.
thoughts on the main plot of this episode, not the everything up to the pancakes.
Okay. So, well, you've been saying for weeks that that we've been talking about the point where like we feel like Anne is finally becoming one with the planters. And you keep saying it for weeks that you think that Anne versus Wild is the episode that Anne has finally become a planter. At first I don't really like thought about it, but then like rewatching it actually kind of makes me agree on your answer now, because
I mean,
I
now
rem
that we've watched season one, sorry to interrupt you, I just want to say that I guess this is the episode where I think Anne thought of herself as a member of the family.
yeah, yeah, you
But I
said that.
think, like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think at the
You
beginning,
continue.
I think definitely at the end, at least, because I think Anne just like realizes that this is just like a group where she doesn't need to act or be like them. She just needs to, like, respect and love them, and they'll accept her. And like, yeah, I think that's when Anne really starts thinking that this is a group I really want to be a part of. And when we get to, like, I forgot what the episode's called, but like, when they go into the planter basement and then they learn that, like, outsiders manage to join the planter family, I think that just really cements the idea that she can be a part of this group too.
Really help. Okay, so yeah, what you said. I think this episode is really. I forgot how important this episode actually is, to be honest, because there's actually a lot of depth in this episode, like like what you said, like Anne's issue with being a part of a group, it's presented here in full display, and like there's also the planters. Uh, I don't know. I think is yeah. I actually agree with your point about how this is the first time that Anne is actually trying to to actually partake on an amphibian tradition or an amphibian activity, not just her trying to bring back something from her home into Amphibia. She's actually trying to be she actually tries an activity from Amphibia itself, trying to
Yeah.
adapt. Not because to survive, but because she actually wants to. And yeah, this is also the first time where she actually, actively wants to partake with the planters for once, for the activities from the planters for once, because most of the time, well, in previous episodes, she's the one who's initiating the activity for the planters to partake in, like the pizza, the charger, um, the her being a political pawn by Toadstool. It happens all because of her. But here, she wants to join in the planters, and the planters are just joining in Anne's adventure. This time
Yes.
around, it's the complete opposite, where Anne is the
I
one who
guess
wants to partake with the planters.
I guess with the exception being Spring versus Hop Pop,
Yeah, true.
which is
But
like
like
one segment out of like almost nearly 10.
yeah, and it's like more of her just be, and she's like more of a spectator there more than an active participant, along with Polly. But yeah, this is the first time that we see Anne actually wanting to be a part of Planters adventures, and to their credit, I really and this her struggle to to enjoy the planter, you know, enjoying and like partake with the planters. It's very well done. Like it's comedic, but it's also very clear that it's also kind of it's also kind of it's also pretty clear that it also like bogs down and like mood and mind. And the planters are actually really respectable in this episode. Like in the beginning, like if they suggest Anne to if she doesn't feel uncomfortable and like in this trip, she can just go home and or just stay at home because the planter farm does need like someone to look out for it, because of how dangerous it is. But Anne insists because she really does want she really does want to bond with the planters, and I think yeah, I think this is the first time where I I said it multiple times, and I'm sorry for repeating it, but like I can't stress enough of how important this episode is for Anne's growth, because this is the first time where Anne really feels like she wants to be a part of this family. For the majority of the season, she's mostly in the sidelines, or like just she keeps herself in in arm's length, even though the planters have pretty much spent a lot of their time trying to make her comfortable. This time around, not only she wants to be a part of the planters adventure, but also she wants to she doesn't want to be alone, I guess. Like that's another thing about Anne's part in this. Like she doesn't want to feel, left out again. And that's pretty important because even if it's comedic, the emotional stake is also there. Like the character development that Anne got in this one episode alone, despite being comedic in nature, is really well done. I will say, oh man, I don't know how I managed to pass by all the subtle character moments here, but rewatching it with hindsight, it is very good. like it actually became a lot better than I thought before, and I really enjoyed this episode personally because of the comedy.
Yeah,
The
and keep in
comedy
mind,
here.
keep in mind,
Keep
this isn't
going.
even talking about the last scene as well.
Yeah, this is not even. Yeah, this is not even like we're not even talking about the ending, but it's actually like I can't like I just now realize how important this actually is. That's how
I,
great that's how actually great the show is because it hides the most important stuff on episodes that you don't even think it would show. Like they don't need a big plot episode. They hide your biggest moments in in the calmest ones. And that's what makes Amphibia so unique.
I just
Yeah,
gotta
like
agree with like everything you say right there, Lemur. Like that is just so damn true. Like I think that sense of progression for like Anne's respect for the planters, like I think it's really like really. I just think it's really that. Like I think sort of like that bud is planted in Breakout Star when they still stand by her even after all they did for her. Like yeah, even after all she did to them, like she starts seeing them as like this really cool group that she respects. And then later on, when like she starts thinking, oh, I actually want to be a part of this family. I want to be with them. Like it's all right there, and like it's that's really solid.
Yeah, and I think that this also been said in like the previous episodes before this, like Girl Time, Spring versus Hop Pop, Dating Season. They're all there. She bonds with the kids, Polly individually, and Hop. She bonds with Sprig and Hop Pop more in these episodes. But this is and this is also the combination of that. She wants to bond with them together in this episode, not individually, but as a family. And I really like that. It's it, this these kinds of episodes are what makes Anne's character so different yet so good because her development these are the kind of episodes that makes me think why Anne is so good and why she's one of my favorite protagonists in a cartoon ever. Her development is so subdued and so slow burn, so well done, and so well told. I can't help but really respect um Anne as a character here because episodes like this is what makes her so good as a character. And I have to give credits to the Amphibia to the show for making her character development so good. Yeah.
yeah, and like I think we haven't really talked too much about like the actual camping trip itself, which is pretty
Yeah.
like entertaining to watch. And like
It's
Ben, what were your
yeah.
thoughts on we got we got Soggy Joe, which he was
Doggy
a
Joe.
fun, yeah, he was a
Soggy
good
Joe.
addition.
He's so freaking good in this episode. Just I don't even just when he laughs for like 20 seconds straight and they're just staring at him like he's some kind of psychopath. That's so good. That is just so freaking good. Like I've never gushed about his character before, but I don't know. Like I know he's like one of the lesser characters that people end up caring about, but I feel like he had such a strong introduction in the show that like at least to me he's very memorable. Like I just like to think that his creepiness is just played up to an act because like even when Anne tells him to turn it down, he's just like no, like it's just so good.
And I also love how his creepiness is also contrasted by his like gentle nature. Like, yeah, he brings them into this dead cemetery, this dead camp, and yet he offers them pancakes. Like,
yeah. Oh. I feel like he's just like a nice guy to his core. Like I feel like
he's a nice guy with a weird he's with a creepy exterior.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like because you see in like other episodes too, where like he helps Paul. I mean, yeah, that's season 2, but you know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah, he helps Polly. He helps the
Yeah, even
siblings
his
find
design
the
is super
box.
creepy. Like,
Yeah, and
the
then
thing that bothered me the most about his design is that it looked like something took a bite out of his tongue.
oh
oh
yeah,
yeah.
true. Yeah, he has a bite mark.
Oh man, but Yeah, I don't know. He's just one of my favorite minor reoccurring characters in the show. Like he's just like anytime he's on screen, he just makes me laugh because how ridiculous he is. Like, and the show knows it too. Like they literally call him out for it, and then all he can do is just scream no at them. Like it's just so funny.
Yeah,
And also,
like,
I just
sorry,
want to
go
bring
on.
this up, like the Mudman sequence with like the lighting is solid, and then even the effect where like they they put out the fire, like the Mudmen probably like put out the fire, and then like when Hoppa pulls out the copper match, it's like this green effect, and like the
Mhm.
Mudmen showing up, and like we've seen the Mudmen, and like it's
The
I'm not gonna say
intro.
foreshadowing. It was just a nice, yeah, it was just a nice thing to like see something from the intro come to life, and especially we've seen this in the pilot as well. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah, actually, you're
this
really
is
right.
some
There are like a lot of nice,
yeah,
like
this is
sorry to interrupt, but there's like a lot of nice shots here. Like the scene where they're backing up to the rock, like that just looks so nice. Like, wow, you're
Yeah.
right.
And honestly, even without like the whole and conflict, without her character development, I still think that this episode would be one of the stronger episodes of the season, just because of how entertaining the whole camping trip is. Like the camping trip itself is very well done. I adore everything about it, from Anne struggling to like adapt from nature, to Soggy Joe himself, to the Mudman scene. It's all hilarious and so well done.
and I forgot to bring this up, but in the previous episode dating season, like we have that reference of like Anne hating nature, and then Spring is trying to bring her along, but then like by Anne versus Wild, they know Anne doesn't like nature, so they're just gonna go
Mm.
without her. I don't
Oh
know, just a
yeah,
nice like
I remember.
subtle
I
another
thing.
just
yeah, another
that
nice reference to a
I
future
think,
episode.
but I also think that's just something the show does so well. Like they genuinely make you just feel bad for Anne. Like I know like I guess Hop Hop delivering those two gut punchers, it's supposed to be slightly funny. Like when he just creates this boundary between Anne and the planter being the planter family. Like I guess it's meant to be played for laughs, but I can't help but like, just look at her face and just feel sorry for her. I mean, it even happens in Breakout Star. Like when she shoves Toady through the wall and she has that funny look on her face, but then she just like I don't know, I don't know how to get into it, but I feel like the show just does that so well, just making you feel for Anne and just connect well with her in the scene. Like this is just like one of those moments.
To be fair, like Hop Hop does have a point on why like she doesn't want Ant. He doesn't want Ant to join him on the trip because yeah, she really isn't that good at adapting with nature, and then of course her being a human in the frog world also doesn't help.
Yeah, I feel like that is true. But I feel like you just have to be polite though. Even if you know someone's going to decline, you still have to say, "Hey, do you want to go do this thing?" Because I feel like it's it's really great that like character development in this episode, but at the same time, like something so sad caused that. Like just just the planter family not even giving her the chance is
And
what pushed
if
her
I
to
can bring
go
this
through all
up,
this
like
growth.
Hmm?
even once Anne comes clean after she uses the bath bomb, huh?
Oh, did she actually
Ah,
say that? Okay, guys, I have to come clean. She
no,
said, did she
No,
say
she
that?
didn't say it,
no,
which
no,
I'm
no,
glad
no,
the
no.
show
But
didn't
like,
do that.
yeah,
Oh my god, that okay,
You
that is very nice. That is actually very nice. Oh,
and like and especially when Anne like reveals like how she's feeling and stuff, like you see the planners like legitimately like they feel bad for her, once they like I guess everything clicks into place for them, and they kind of realize like what Anne was going through, and then they just immediately go to comfort her, which is
yeah,
and this is the first planter hug in the show, which I remember. And
yeah,
I just
that's a great
yeah.
detail. That's a
And
great
at that
detail.
point, and yeah, I think that specific moment finally starts the slow but very noticeable inclusion of Ant in the family. Like we've been asking that for weeks, and I think that moment is where it starts.
Yeah, like, I remember thinking it was going to be like I forgot what I was going to call the basement episode, but like I really agree with you here, Thumb. I think
Because
this is really the episode where it happens.
yeah,
Just
and the next episode, Contagion. Oh wow!
Okay,
The next episodes are
stop,
actually
stop, Lemur, Lemur. I
what?
don't.
Sorry,
I'm
sorry.
gonna rip. I'm gonna rip. No, no, no. It's just me being. It's just me being petty. Like, I, I'm gonna. I don't want to talk about Contagion because, like,
What?
never mind.
is it sort of like a reversal of this episode or something in a way?
A little
Or
bit, a little bit. So I'm not
I didn't
gonna
even
get.
think about
I'm not
that.
gonna. I'm not get salty for that, but
Why?
All right,
Wait,
I'm
we'll get
sorry.
there. We'll get there. It's
We'll
just
get
like
there.
this episode builds up these strong family connections that Anne's starting to feel, and then Contagion's like, "Sorry, Anne doesn't care about her family," but we should come around again.
Okay. I see. Okay, I guess we'll save
It's a
that for
nitpick,
next
though. It's a
week.
No,
nitpick because
we'll
the
just have to
rest of the
see.
episode salvages it, but I'm
I
getting
think
too
it's
far ahead of
it's
myself.
that awkward episode placement. I have to say, like it's just like if it was rearranged somewhere else, I feel like it would work. But yeah, we'll get into that next week.
Yeah,
Well, the next week's
I
episodes
guess.
are Contagion and Family Shrub. So
Actually, no.
I
Next week we're going to cover the Comic-Con panel. But
yeah,
Ooh,
no,
that's right.
no, I meant the next episodes that we're gonna cover, not next week. Sorry.
but I think it's time for us to get into the
The
final,
ending.
like the final scene where Anne finally reveals how she got into Amphibia, which is through the music box, and then Hop Up looks at it. He doesn't know what it is, and then Sprig
Oh,
tells
wow,
Anne that they're going to try and get her home, and she appreciates that. And then we get Hop Hop looking back at we get Hop Hop in his study, looking through a book, and then discovering it's called the Calamity Box. And we see those pages. It's just as he feared, as I'm quoting him, and then the segment ends. So, okay, what I want to talk about here is that the reason, okay, this ending works as a conclusion to the episode itself, and as a teaser of the future because there's this overarching, is it arching or arcing, whatever,
Arcing.
theme of
Yeah.
trust, overarching theme of trust, because I guess another reason why I considered Anne considered planners her family at this point of the show was because she was willing to open up about
Calamity
how she
Box.
got into Amphibia in
Yeah,
the
how
first
she
place.
got.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it's basically her at that point. She's establishing that she trusts the planners with this, and then so we get this even though we're establishing this strong knot or the strong link, it's like the last few seconds of Hoppa, it shows it's like a crack in this link where it could get worse or better. We had no idea at this point, but Hop Up reading the book, it kind of comes into question how much we know about Hop Up, and I like that. I'm glad that they didn't show this in the very first episode because I don't want to compare this to Gravity Falls, but I think what this show does better is that at least gave us more time to learn about Hop Up before we start to question what's he
What he
do
actually
what
knows.
does what he actually knows and why he's doing all this, which we later learn is a very
Mm.
simple reason.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, I think the ending just elevated this episode from it being a great episode for me to just being something something I'd like revisiting once in a while because of how just how it feels like an evergreen episode for me, which it means you could watch this episode whenever you want, and I feel like it's never going to age poorly depending on whatever however season 3 plays out or however season 2 played out. This episode we would look back and still think very fondly of, and it was the perfect it's the perfect checkpoint of the show for season 1, I think.
Oh, I gotta agree
Without
with you.
it being a season
I gotta
finale.
agree.
Yeah, I gotta agree because it's like just the inclusion of that final minute in the episode. It's like I feel like it's a real big step forward for the show because it's slowly hinting at you that there's something more to Amphibia than you really think there is. Like we're slowly getting somewhere with the show. Like I think there's really that sense of that in the ending.
Yeah.
And to add on to this, like it doesn't feel like this last minute plot development doesn't feel like something that was tacked on because of the way Anne versus Wild progressed. Because like even in the case for the first temple, as much as I love that episode, it's basically the episode, 22 minutes, and then it cuts to Newtopia, and then we see what's going with Andrews, which is still excellent. But then the way Anne versus Wild incorporated their like final minute, and as well, like once we get into Bazaar, like I'll talk about this again. Like it's still grounded in the relationship between, I guess, to be more specific, Hop Hop to his like new member of the family. It's still connected. There's still that link while also giving us a little bit more about what's going on with the box.
Yes. Like I was like I think this ending really elevated Anne versus Wild as just up as not from a pretty great episode to possibly one of the most important episodes of the show. Because in hindsight,
Hell
there is
yeah.
actually there's a lot of elements that are in play in this episode. You got Anne's continuing struggle to adapt to Amphibia, Anne's new desire to bond with her new family, the planters trying to incorporate Anne in their normal lives. You got well, you also got a new townie in Soggy Joe. And then you got then you have then you got this is also the start of Anne's slow inclusion in the family, which got better and better by each episode. And then you got the Calamity Bot, and then you also reminded us of the Calamity Box, which is
And this is the first time it shows up after roughly like 6 episodes.
yes, and this is also the first time that we heard about the actual name of the Calamity Box.
Yeah,
And then this also kickstarted the whole long plot thread of Hop Pop and Anne's relationship.
yeah. I was about
To be
say.
fair, but to be fair, you can say that this kickstarted in the episode Stakeout, but this is the episode where it kickstarted the plot of Anne and Hop Pop's trust, the relationship that is built on trust, and like, and that's really that's like long term storytelling at its best.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about it because, like, not even just. I feel like you can even say the scene leads into them, investigating more because we have several episodes where like the Planter family are trying to investigate more on like what the music box exactly is, and even that, and to an extent of that, you can even say all that information ended up leading them to Newtopia. Like, I feel like you can say this one episode just set up multiple future plot points that we tackle on later on. Like I feel like the more I think about this episode, just the more important it becomes. Like this is
And
just
also,
one of
yeah,
those founding episodes for the show.
yeah, and also I think this is also the episode that really like emphasizes Anne to explore more of Amphibia, more specifically Wartwood, because from this point on, we get to learn more about Wart because 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 now that the planters are now know how Anne got here, they are now forced to look around more their surroundings.
Ooh.
Because,
Oh.
yeah, and even though we still got the silly episodes that we come to know and love from the show, we got episodes like Family Shrub, Lily Pad Thai, The Planter's Last Stand, the mid-season finale. I think this is the point of the show where we actually get to learn more about Wartwood itself, and that's really interesting.
And I just want to bring up like way back when we did when we we went over the first episode of the show, uh,
Best
Best
Bronze
Franz.
and
I noticed I
Northeast.
noticed that I think in Best Franz when like Hop Hop is like sleeping in his study, it's like it's played for jokes where like Hop Hop's just like sitting in his chair. We see his back and he's just like sleeping awake with his eyes open or whatever. And then just like they they pretty much they reframe this like exact same shot at the end of Anne vs. Wild, except it's at night. So the lighting's more eerie. There's books all over the table, and then this time like Hop Hop, instead of Hop Hop just like sleeping, he's like very like intently like looking, flipping through his book. I just thought that was a nice like change of how in the first episode we thought Hop Hop was just some silly old frog,
And
but then here
like,
it's like he knows a little bit more than he lets on.
yeah, like the whole scene just feels. I mean, even the praying mantis to the right just makes it even creepier for me because I hate those insects. But like,
Isn't
yeah,
that the
like,
same praying mantis from the first episode, or is that different?
No, I think it's a different one.
yeah,
Okay.
Like
no,
it's just
but
some. There's just a decoration, I think.
But Thumb,
Okay.
I really do think you're getting on. Yeah, you're because yeah, there's like that huge contrast. You thought he was just like some silly old man who will fight his grandson in a tunic. No, like there's something more. Yeah, I had to bring that up. I
God
just
damn
had
it.
to. But yeah, there's this huge. Like I think yeah, this is really when the show starts moving on to a different stage for itself. Like you feel like I think it's really all there. Just things become more grim and dark just within that one scene. Like Christ, I mean, I don't know. Just the more I think about this episode, just the more important it becomes. Like, you get this sense that there's like something. I guess now I'm not going to say darker to Hop Pop, but yeah, definitely that he knows more than he's letting on. There's
Yeah, but like
something there's something more desperate about Hop Pop's character. I'd say, yeah, it's I'm feeling that with him right now.
and also like and with the power of hindsight, I think this episode really shows that even though Hop Up may know a lot more about what's going on, he also doesn't know like everything because like his phrasing is it's just as I feared. But like at first we thought that like he actually knows everything about it, but like not really. But watching it now, it also you can also may think that even though he does know a lot more, he doesn't know he doesn't know everything because there's also this subtle fear of unknown when he discovers what the box is all about.
Yeah, it just feels like the show's first nod to like
There's
there's
a bigger
something. Yeah,
yeah,
there's like
there's
this
a bigger
bigger
story in play.
and like those are always like my favorite episodes. Those always end up being my favorite episodes of the Amphibia, where you genuinely feel like the show's taking a step forward in terms of its like storytelling and writing. Like just this one scene, just like I think it just propels it forward like that.
Mm.
Yeah,
Just
and I mean, I think this is a good time to wrap up because I know like whatever else we talk about now, I feel like it's just gonna it's something that could probably leak in to other aspects of the
Episodes.
show.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
But
probably save that for later.
yeah, and yeah, like I still think like this episode. I feel like this is like the ideal. This is the ideal. This is like the gold standard for amphibia. I guess for something that doesn't involve. I guess for some, I don't want to say something too plot focused. Like this is like the ideal episode of Amphibia, where if it's not too heavy, it still has this intrigue about it, but it doesn't give too much away. But it gives you enough to make you satisfied.
Yeah. I also kind of agree with your statement that this is like one of the best introduction episodes for the show. Like if you're a newcomer and you want to like know what the show is about, I think this is one of the best episodes to show that newcomer. Except for the pilot, of
Like
course.
like now that we've talked about it, like of course there's like some stuff. There's a lot to Anne's character that you wouldn't really you wouldn't really notice if this was like the first episode you've seen. But
Mhm.
since it's like a 10-minute episode and it pretty much covers everything you need to know about Anne, the planters, and the music box, and it's done I think in a lot it's done in a more effective way than Anne versus not Anne versus Wild. It's done in a more effective way
Restaurants.
than Anne or Beast or Best Franz combined. I think
Wow. Huh.
because it manages to do this in 10 minutes, while like that's like 20 minutes.
Mm,
That might
interesting
actually be a
take.
good. That's actually a pretty good point. I'd say.
Well,
And that's not to discredit
yeah.
Anne or Beast or Best Franz because it does cover other aspects of the show like Sasha and it actually introduces us to these characters. But like Anne versus Wild is still a pretty decent like
Intro.
maybe we don't get enough of the planners, but what we do get is still pretty solid. Like
Yeah, true. Like
It's like
with best,
it's
yeah, and
it's a
with
very good
best
episode.
Franz, yeah, and with best Franz, you got like the core of the show in general, which is Anne spraying against the world.
like I'm just saying like if Anne like if you try to introduce the show to someone and they weren't hooked on Anne or Beast or Best Franz, I think this would be like a go-to episode as like a
Mm,
third time's the charm.
yeah.
I mean, they're probably really
Oh,
gonna like Soggy Joe. They're probably really,
they're probably
they're
gonna
really
like.
gonna like Soggy Joe.
Hello, Ben. Oh, hello.
You there,
I
Ben?
don't think Ben's mic works, but
Uh,
Shoot.
or
that
maybe he left.
sucks.
I'm not sure,
Mm,
but still thank you guys for coming on. Ben included as well. Thank you for coming on, Ben. If you can hear this, but
yeah.
I guess next week we'll be covering the Comic-Con panel, and hopefully, like we get to learn a little bit more about that.
Hopefully, yeah.
About
Well, hopefully we get enough content from the Comic-Con panel to actually talk in in the next week.
Yeah, we've been. I mean, we've practically been starving. Like, just something to tide us over, something to at least keep a month's worth of discussion going, or something. Like
True.
that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Same.
and I guess any final thoughts you want to get off your chest?
Yeah. Anne versus Wild. While Anne versus Wild is what I consider to be a wine episode, where with the power of hindsight and with the whole, it's an episode that gets better with time and with hindsight. Like it started out as this like fun episode about Anne and planters going on a trip, but it actually turns out to be like probably one of the most important episodes of the show in general, because it has a lot of elements that really does play into the nature of the show, and it makes this episode, while not necessarily like one of the best episodes of the show, it definitely makes it like one of the most important in general. Yeah, and that's what I have to. That's all I have to say about this episode. A really well done episode.
All right, thank you, Lemur. So yeah, we're going to cover. We'll hopefully try and break down that San Diego Comic-Con trailer in a very concise way, and hopefully we
Please.
learn a little bit more. So
Please,
say goodbye, guys. It will
See
be
you
good.
guys.
Bye.